Hi, everyone, and welcome to New Orleans Home Search. This is where we talk everything New Orleans and everything real estate. And we're super excited because today we have Mr. Byron S. Cole here. He is a candidate for mayor in New Orleans. He is a staple in the city, and we have had him on the show before. So I'm super excited about having Byron back, and we're going to just jump right into it. And I want you to tell us, why did you decide to run for mayor of New Orleans?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I appreciate the platform. That kind of is a segue into my answer. First of all, my neighbors had an overwhelming request that someone represent them, and they asked me specifically. So that was my initial motivation. But, you know, when I was thanking you for access to the platform, it was because if you notice that the news, the local media is not really even covering the mayoral race whatsoever. And that's just a fraction of the reasoning of why I decided to go ahead and acknowledge my neighbors and make my bid for mayor.
And that you were advocating for was that City Hall not be in Treme, and that City Hall be placed in New Orleans East. And I thought that that was a genius idea. I agreed with you wholeheartedly on that idea. That the East definitely needs help, and City Hall would have benefited from being in the East.
What we have to understand is that the hospitality industry has a stronghold on the indigenous citizen of New Orleans, right? And all of the tourism money is channeled to that corner and controlled by a certain sector. And so what we see is that the same people and the same associations are really profiting the lion's share of what we collect on our record-setting tourist weekends, right? And so, you know, I had the idea to put City Hall in New Orleans East because so I've only lived two places ever in New Orleans, and that's in the 7th Ward and in one of my mom's first residences, which was on East Rockton Circle in New Orleans East, right? And so I saw the plaza, and, you know, we used to go watch movies and ice skate, and I saw what it was designed to be, right? So let's fast forward now to Katrina and the state of New Orleans East, the 9th Ward period, as we see it right now, right? And it's a total disrespect, and we know why we see that disrespect, because it's a predominantly black demographic, right? And so that black demographic, which is the largest separate tax base in our whole city, has been denied everything that they deserve from what they contribute based on tax base, period, right? And so we saw a hospital barely pop up here recently. They still don't have adequate grocery stores or infrastructure, really. And so I saw a chance to bring City Hall there, which forces a much needed commerce to the east. It also makes us very competitive in terms of our neighbor cities. Dallas has 2 corridors of buildings. So does Houston, so does Atlanta. And then we see other cities that were traditionally smaller than ours. We see them catching us in terms of growth, like Memphis and Little Rock, Arkansas, and St. Louis and Kansas City. These are cities I travel to frequently, and I'm seeing that what is stifling New Orleans' growth is our inability to understand that a small demographic of New Orleanians thrive off of all of the tourism and commerce being located in that one section of town. We have so much unused land in New Orleans East that the city owns already outright. I was told by a local source that Franklin Avenue Baptist Church was going to be in a different location in New Orleans East. And somehow at the end of the negotiation, the city steered them to where it is now because they didn't want to give up that land that's near Six Flags. And so what we see is our officials plotting on us in advance about plans that they're going to make and contracts they're going to give out and distribute before they've even told us what they're planning on doing. So City Hall in the East, and that's another reason why I decided to run for mayor, if nothing else, just to orate this eloquently to all in my city so they can understand exactly what's going on.
Be it for business or pleasure, you can configure urbansmartnetwork.com to give you the most reliable social engagement. Think of urbansmartnetwork.com as the ultimate social networking headquarters that help you save precious time. Users have the option of creating a business or personal page that allows them to start an e-commerce business without any programming knowledge or marketing experience. Join urbansmartnetwork.com now, one of the fastest growing social media platforms.
What are some other things that are happening in the city that if you're just an everyday person, you know, you're going to work, you may be watching the news isn't going to tell you these things, but these are things that you should be aware of in our community.
So I'm glad you asked that. I'm sorry. I'm glad you asked that. There's, oh my goodness. So, you know, I've made a name off of being a whistleblower. And that's been my recent claim to fame. And so, you know, before I start saying what I see, I want people to understand that I've been witnessing me make videos that go 70 and 80,000 on my platforms without any credit card, pointing out stuff, and still we see no reprisal for the institution or even anyone interested in discussing a reprisal for the institution, even though you see in real time playing out the contradiction I'm calling. So like an example of that is the corruption story that we see now that's major news, Channel 4, with the state troopers, right? The police abuse from the state police, right?
Okay.
I started calling that out on Facebook 6 years ago, Jewel. I have multiple videos, Facebook Live, where I caught state troopers doing things that I called flagrant. And I use words like they're cavalier and, you know, outlaw. And people were like, oh, he's a sensationalist, right? Until Mike Pearlstein got wind of one of my videos and made his first video, which now he's made many and he's come to a conclusion and everybody has realized that there is serious corruption within the state police, right? But my point I'm trying to make is my video sparked that and Mike will concur with that. And so before I start saying what's wrong, I want people to understand that I'm not doing this to have debates and you have to study to show yourself approved. So you go and Google what I'm discussing before you come and argue with me, please. So I'll start with Six Flags. What Six Flags is coming down to is an issue of a New Orleanian making a vie for the property and having a proposal that New Orleans East as a majority, a consensus supports, right?
Okay.
And another transplant New Orleanian, Drew Brees, his proposal is being favored by the city. And someone that is linked to that proposal is on the committee that gets to decide which firm gets the proposal. That's a conflict of interest that's not being called out when it's been brought to the air multiple times. There's a serious concern I have that the city council woman even is not being placed on the committee as a representative of the New Orleans East population, and no other New Orleans East resident, can be there to actually speak for what's going on in real time in the East and what their needs are, right? And I also have another contradiction with the fact that when I asked the city councilwoman, does she have a good relationship with the mayor, she says yes, and that she believes the mayor respects her. But the mayor slighted her in that situation. And when the mayor slighted her in that situation, she didn't call out a contradiction there. She had no problem with it. She's allowing it to exist. That's one area that we have where we could stand up tomorrow, call out what's going on, and just stand firmly on constitutional grounds and apply a pressure to multiple elected officials, as I stated in that process. But, when I do that, I'm a Lone Ranger and people say I'm crazy, and they don't understand that, they have to push these situations the way they want them to go. That's how politics works. You have a block and you have to exert the force of your block and make your will known and your presence felt, basically.
So what would be moving forward? We know what we're dealing with, right? Moving forward, you as mayor, what's the first thing that you want to change?
The first thing I would change?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's a difficult question. For you to ask me the first thing I would change.
Yes.
It puts me on the spot because I have a list of about 10 things that I know I would have the discretion to change. And I was talking about doing all that the first day. So I don't want to really pinpoint one. You want me to just list some things?
Yes, you can list.
Okay. So,
and if you have a priority with anything, let me know what that priority might be.
So like I said, I have a list of 10 things. They're all priority.
Okay, I requested to join your live if you want to let me in before you answer that.
Yes, I would love to let you in before I answer. Okay, so again, I want to state for the record, I'm not placing these in any prioritization. I just had a list. She asked me for one thing I would change immediately. And so I would prefer to just list some things that are bugging me. And I would like to have some resolution regarding, right? So I'm taking the C off Nord and giving the parks back to the communities, period. We're going to allow the booster clubs and the coaching structures and the community 501c3s to tell us what the park needs, and we'll facilitate it through budgeting. It's much better to have the people from the neighborhood who know the children and how to motivate them and what their current situations are in real time be the ones that address their day-to-day issues. And I firmly believe that. So Nord is going back to Nord, no C.
Nord.
I passed by Nord today and took
New Orleans Recreation.
I passed by Stallings Pool today and saw the country club with 2 blacks in there out of 15 people and maybe one person under 50 in the pool. And so the scheduling, like this time for aerobics and this time for this and this time for that and only certain times for open swim, along with how you have to register and have internet access to be able to register to go swimming, it's biased and it damages the ability of the downtrodden to participate in something that is funded by city allocation, right?
Right.
And so we have to stop that immediately. And subsequently, we have a crime problem with teenage males between the age of 13 and 18. And I know between 13 and 18, I spent many a summer day in that pool. So that's one thing. We got to restructure. We got to restructure sewage and water board. We need to get our cities. We get our city's best engineers, Myron Mitchell's, Calvin Mackey's, and pay them instead of these people from out of town that we don't know, that leave and have no culpability after they leave, and even after getting fired, get pensions of 6 figures, multi 6 figures. That's another thing. I'm going after all them pensions. We're going to have some real battles because the average New Orleanian is paying the toll for that with outrageous billing that has no predictability. And we deserve more. We deserve better. Let's see. What else am I going to change immediately? I'm going to reassess the placement of bike lanes as they are currently. Okay. I'm not saying they're a bad idea totally, but what I am super interested in is what correlation those bike lanes have to illicit contracting, and is that a frivolous contracting idea that under the table somehow is rewarding someone illegally, like the blue bike idea. The blue bikes came and ran a lot of local New Orleanians out of business because they had tour companies with their little bikes with the lights, right? And then after we paid all that money to get our whole city fixed up with the blue bikes, then the plan was aborted. But we'd already given the contract and spent our money. That's irresponsibility on the part of your elected officials. And I think that if we look at that, we'll see some erroneous contracting that, again, may have some illicit roots. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to get my notebook.
Okay.
Because I have multiple things here that, you know, I've been writing for years, and I'm ashamed to say it, but you know, I didn't even have to update my list.
You mentioned those bike lanes. Those bike lanes make my nerves bad. I'm always inches away from hitting somebody.
So, like I told the boy on the other podcast, we used to ride way uptown with 3 people on one 20-inch bike, and we never got hit. And was doing all kinds of stuff we had no business or nothing. So bike lanes are an aesthetic posturing. We've put money on the problem, so now we've solved it. When really, bike fatalities are about driver awareness and driver safety. And so we've gotten now this, you know, if you got 450, you go register for the driving class and you pass that and you get your license and you're certified and you can go. And, you know, we may need to examine that process as well. But, so I'm not like, you know, bike lanes are just, you know, the devil's seed. But I am saying that, you know, the one on Miro, is out of place. It makes it very hard to drive through that area and feel comfortable. You have cars parked on both sides of the road sometimes, and it's a really difficult situation to maneuver.
Hi, this is Jewel Bakewell with Crown Jewel Realty. I'm your host of New Orleans Home Search Podcast, where we talk everything real estate and New Orleans. I'm here every first and third Thursday of the month on UrbanSmartNetwork.com.
Every time, every day, anytime, anywhere, every time, every day.
Only at UrbanSmartNetwork.com. And Cantrell when she ran for office, her main thing was the camera tickets will be going away. And I noticed those didn't go away because I just got one. So let's talk about that, right? Those camera tickets. I know they're outsourced by a third-party company outside of here that facilitates those monies. And I just wanted to hear your impact, what you thought about that.
First of all, let's give the history of that. So this is what people don't understand. Arnie Philco came from Ohio as an executive from the Saints. We knew nothing of his history. We just knew he was with the Saints. We embraced him because he was with the Saints. His very next position after falling out with the Saints was president of New Orleans City Council, which was unheard of. Until Arnie Philco, there had not been a man to be president of City Council of New Orleans that was not from Louisiana. It's unheard of. They would not allow someone that was not interwoven into the politics of Louisiana to control the purse strings of New Orleans, okay?
Okay.
And so we know for a fact that there's a serious correlation to Arnie Philco being with the Saints and Benson money buying that position of him leading the city council. While he was leading the city council, Benson basically took over. He got the Benson Tower for pennies on the dollar, like road home type money, right? And then charges us, the state of Louisiana, money to house our vital records and statistics offices in that building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I've said for years that every time you say who that New Orleans, you're simultaneously subjugating a second-class citizenry in New Orleans, the downtrodden. And so now back to how that's related to your question. So
if you could turn the volume down a little bit on your phone. I hear a little echo. I want to make sure that they're not hearing an echo. Anybody on the live, you guys can hear us fine? Are you guys getting the echo?
So yeah, back to the point. So you asked me about something specifically. So I'm bringing up the out-of-town resourcing, right?
Right.
So while Arnie Philco was lacing Benson and making sure his ex-boss, who he had a falling out in the media with prior to him being the president of city council, now he's laced Benson with whatever he needs to have a political dominance in our city, right?
Right.
But at the same time, he also created the camera ticket, which initially, when you call to pay or ask questions or get customer service regarding a camera ticket, you called Ohio exclusively, where he's from.
Yes.
That money was channeled back to Ohio. That's what you call under the table money, corrupt money, right?
Right.
And so we still practice that. And I went to city council meetings before I ran for office and asked, why are we still outsourcing this damage from Philco, and why aren't we employing New Orleanians with this if we're going to have camera tickets at all? And that's fallen to deaf ears. These same people that we have now have heard this before. And so if you ever have to deal with New Orleans ambulance, I had an accident in 2018, and I was shocked that when I called to discuss what was going on with the ambulance, if you call one shift, they answer sometimes in Ohio again. And if you call another shift, they answer in Texas, which also the camera ticket also answers in Texas as well. So it's clear to me that there was some nepotism or something going on in the contracting, and Ohio had it exclusively first, and somebody in Texas complained. And so, like, they don't even try to hide what they put us through in terms of bureaucracy. And I'm here to end all of that. The outsourcing. That's a direct reflection of how they assess the mentality of the average New Orleanian when you and I represent the average New Orleanian.
Right. That's a beautiful point. And I don't think a lot of people even pay attention or notice that where their money is going. It's an outsourced company.
Well, let me tell you, those bills in particular, they are very destructive in a sense, because there's one demographic of society that's no issue and they pay it immediately with a card. And then there's another demographic that's a heavy burden and a heavy toll. And so if you look at the posture of these institutions, like in an accident that I was in recently, the police asked me, did I want an ambulance? And I said no. And I heard the police officer tell them that, and they still sent one out. And when the ambulance came out, they tried to tell me how it was very essential for me to get in the truck. And I said, look, I'm 48 years old. No, I got this. I'm good, right? And I noticed that the ambulance driver immediately went into a posture and tried to recruit the police officer into a posture of, oh, we've got a disgruntled here. And I said, no, ma'am, I'm not. I just refused your service. And you kept saying, come on, get in the car, like as if I had to. So what made me stifle her in that movement was I said, what are my rights as a citizen? And when I said that, she had to back off of me. I said, are you saying I gotta get in here? Because what she tried to say was, well, we were called. I said, so wait, don't try to charge me. Because I told the police officer I didn't want this. So let's get that straight right now. And so when I said that, she said, oh, well, sir, you got to get in. And I said, what are my rights? So I'm just showing you how they're doing the average citizen. And then when the average citizen doesn't understand the process fully, they have to jump on the phone and deal with someone who talks very careless and reckless to them from a whole nother state, because they know that you can get no reciprocity, no instant gratification for that period. Even when you complain, which I did to the people at the ambulance, there's a process where they have to investigate it and do a hearing with their employee. And then you don't even get to know if the employee was fired or reprimanded or what the course of action was. And I doubt there is one. And so when you take the personability out of doing business in your hometown, you get treated any kind of way, because the people are not motivated to do anything other than what is required of them.
And, you know, that becomes a trickle down effect, because now you have the ambulance on your credit report, or the camera tickets. They're saying those are going on people's credit reports. So these are all things that affect your credit. If your credit score is not where it needs to be, you can't buy a house, you can't get a loan. If you do get a loan, especially a car note, the interest rate is crazy. So you're paying almost double for the car. So it just puts people in a situation to get lower and lower and lower.
It took me a minute to find my notes, but I see we got a good following on Instagram. I don't know about on your platform, but they're watching. So I want to extend my answer to another question you already asked about what would I change immediately.
Yes.
I want all the viewers to understand that if you go look at my video where I was talking to the 7th district captain and I asked him what policing style they were under, and he told me that what I was saying made no sense. He was wrong. And I quoted him in the video being incorrect on some other information about what the lady was charged that carjacked the car at the gas station as well. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I have been asking New Orleans police structure what policing style they operate under for 8 years, and no one, all the way up to the captain of the 7th district, is able to tell me what I'm talking about, right? And so I want to challenge everyone that sees this video to Google 5 acceptable federal policing styles within the United States. Google that right now. And it's going to say one of them is legalistic, one of them is watchman, and they're going to name 2 or 3 other styles. Why we are being mistreated in New Orleans is because our police department is not committed to a style that we can then gauge them on for performance. That's the issue, and that's why they act like they don't understand my question, when surely they do, because when I sat in Delgado taking this class, I had a class of 40 people, and 20 of them were police officers extending their education. But when I ask an officer on the beat this question, they won't answer it, and they will give it no legitimacy. And it's because if we can get it down to what style to expect from them, then we can govern their behavior on every individual encounter, and they don't want that to happen. That's what I'm gonna change day one of being the mayor. The mayor is the boss of the police. That's
so what?
Change.
So okay, you would change and you would give us a style. We know that there's 5 styles. So which of those 5 would you change it to?
Okay, so there's 2 I focused on, and it's because they're the 2 most predominant in the United States. There's legalistic and there's watchman, the 2 that I prefer to discuss today. I don't remember the names of the others offhand, but they're not widespread used. These are the two most dominant, right? So legalistic is how a white person is treated when they're pulled over in the suburbs. Sorry, sir. You know you have a tail light out, sir? If the person's not drunk and if they have a good excuse or they weren't aware, they get a warning and they are allowed to move on. They can even interject about how uncomfortable this stop was to them and that they have somewhere to be and still get the warning. That's legalistic style. Everything by the book with the respect to the citizen, right?
Right.
But watchman style is a style that's widespread and it's used predominantly in urban areas, and it's what was created in Southside Chicago, which for all the viewers watching, if you're not aware, Southside Chicago is the proving ground for all police tactics in the United States. If they want to try something with policing, the first thing they do is they go and try it in Southside Chicago. And so what we're seeing is this watchman style. It gives the officer a lot of discretion where they can gun down an Alton Sterling because he had a weapon on him, even though he clearly was not using it and to harm a police officer. But at the same time, they can also decide not to shoot the other demographic that has that same situation. Or the officer can lie under oath and jump out and within seconds gun down a Tamir Rice, a child playing with a gun, but lie and say that he verbalized something to that child that he didn't have time to say due to the length of the video, and that was proven in court. But his watchman style that he was allowed to adopt gave him the room to now not have a gauge on how we judge his behavior on a level of standard. You get it?
Yeah.
You get it? And that's an issue. And so New Orleans won't commit to a style. They won't even admit that they understand what I'm discussing. And it's on purpose. And as long as we have that happening, we'll be in danger. If I'm elected mayor, the first day I'm elected mayor, I'm going to tell you this. I am going to change the police chief. But I'm
Okay.
not gonna offend. I'm not gonna offend the force. I know some solid people that have rank in the force, and I'm gonna structure it how it's supposed to be, with local New Orleanians that are from here, that have always respected the community, but been outstanding investigators and men of the law. And instead of having the bureaucracy pick the chief, I'm gonna let their resumes pick them, what we really truly know about them and their concern for the community. And if they really live in the parish and where, and what their
Right.
input has been.
Okay. So you already have some people in mind that could fit in
Oh,
those
yeah.
shoes.
I can tell you without a doubt, I'm bringing in 5 men that are currently ranked in an NOPD for interviews. And I haven't told them yet, but yeah, I know 5 good men that have decent rank. And one of them are gonna be my chief for sure.
Urban Smart Studios is a full-service multimedia production company specializing in fast turnaround and excellent attention to detail. With over 25 years' experience as audiovisual experts, our digital designers possess extensive hands-on experience. Why trust your brand with anyone else? Our digital designers are superstars with live streaming solutions, brand development, digital media solutions, videography and photography, marketing campaigns, audiovisual solutions, post-production, and more. Let us help transform your vision into a campaign that will turn heads and, more importantly, make sales. We believe in premium results. Schedule your next project with us today. It's absolutely free. Only on urbansmartstudios.com.
I'm glad you mentioned that everybody on your team will be from here, who live here, who actually experience what's going on in our city and are not transplants, and also.
So the name of my campaign is Checks and Balances. It's time for accountability. I'm gonna stay right here in the 7th Ward. I'm gonna sit on my porch. I'm gonna go to the second line right there at the corner like I've been doing. It's time for accountability. Our people need to heal.
So we got checks and balances, and we got upset the setup. So let's talk about the upset the setup.
So upset the setup in this particular instance means this. Our issues are crime due to lack of educational structure and abject poverty. Why we have that problem is because New Orleans leads the world in tourism, really. It's one of the premier cities in the world. But we lead the United States every other year. We beat New York and San Francisco and Orlando and all that other stuff where they got to have all them commercials and beg people to come in Vegas. We beat them all the time. The issue with our financing, first of all, is nepotism and corruption, because we do get a significant budget for our city annually. I've seen it and I know what I could do with it, right?
Okay.
But one of our major issues is we see this record-setting profits from capitalism, and it doesn't trickle down into the mainstream population. I'm gonna stop those corporate entities from making record profits and boasting about it. Even the gasoline companies that sit right here in our city and host, and the insurance companies that host of all of our events and all of our major forums, all right? But not only am I going to attack it that way, but I also recognize that the state takes the lion's share of our profit for infrastructure for other parishes within the state, right?
When we have all the potholes.
Yeah, well, and bridges. And whatever else they need where ain't nothing but sugar cane. You know what I'm saying? And swamp. And so we've been facilitating that for decades, centuries, okay? But I am going to be bold enough to challenge the state for our money with all my full discretion. And at the same time, simultaneously, I have a plan that no one else has said before that is gonna work, and that no one can challenge. I'm going to bring back the 3 tolls. You're coming across the river, you're going to pay a toll. You're coming in from the east, you're going to pay a toll. You're coming in from the 610 I-10 split at Metairie, you're going to pay a toll. But if you're a registered New Orleans resident, you won't pay anything. Everyone else that's leeching off of our city, benefiting, coming here making money, and they think that they're contributing to us by spending their money and paying that little sales tax, but the state takes that. So we want to see a direct reflection on that tourism that is not going to be interceded on, and that's a way to get it that the state can't stop me from doing. And as your mayor, I'm going to bring those 3 tolls back and say that if you commit to my city's infrastructure and you tag your car in Orleans Parish, then you won't have to worry about paying that. You can come over 50 times a day, it don't matter. But if you live in Jefferson Parish and you're coming over twice to go get your paycheck and go to work, you're going to give us $5. Because that's what New Jersey got to do in New York. And, to come over, they got to pay 17. And, that's what Florida does and Texas does. And so we're going to capitalize too. New Orleans can feed all of its citizens and nobody has to be preyed upon. And we can welcome in New Orleanians by putting the city hall in the east and growing a new community out there on that land that we own and are not using. We can build affordable housing, high-rise structures, 20 stories. New Orleans is going to have to grow. We can't go out any further. Got to go up. So we can go out there and put a textile industry in the east, city hall, some 20-story housing development structures, welcome in some stores. Let's get a nice mall in the east, some real shopping. Why do I got to drive to Gonzales? Why I got to drive to Mississippi? And no, I'm not going to go to the Riverwalk if I live in the east and get exploited by all of the parking fees and whatnot.
Right. So,
and it's a great distance from my house if I live in the east.
And in the east, I mean, restaurants are needed. It's so much opportunity. They do have that opportunity.
What would bring more restaurants and stores than a city hall?
Yeah.
And a civil court.
And police officers to combat the crime problem.
Well, listen. So the crime problem comes. Police officers, baby, they're not going to combat the crime problem. Go Google the Kansas City experiment. More police mean more arrests when you don't affect conditions. We need to vote Byron Cole for mayor, and let me get the toll booths up, because I pledged that 100% of that money is going to family and youth programming. We're going to restructure what's going on in our city and put an emphasis back on the indigenous, and at the same time, welcome in the transplant. But you're not going to displace the indigenous to live in New Orleans and then live in the 7th Ward and then be in city council meetings after you've been here for 2 minutes and talk about this your neighborhood. We can't do that.
Right. I love that. So your plan to tackle crime is more community programs. More community programs.
No. Let's be specific. Bring me a charger, please. I can't get up. A Apple charger. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, so I can make sure people fully understand what my true intentions are. The community programming has netted us nothing. If you can contradict my statement, do it now on my IG Live. What did NOLA for Life net us? It was an aesthetic campaign that presented that the city was handling a problem that we saw the statistics get worse under that regime, right?
Right.
And so the same with Cure Violence. What I propose to do is what I did the first time in the first election, that the mayor co-opted, just like she did the living wage and something else you just mentioned. She co-opted that too, but never gave it. You just said it recently.
The camera ticket.
Yeah, the camera tickets. So I proposed that So I have been in a real argument in New Orleans, right? Where the peacekeepers called me, and I actually saw a functionality in how Willie and them was operating. And I ain't saying that just because they sided with me and I was telling the truth. I'm saying that because I saw that program is a necessity. And I talked with Oliver Thomas and a couple of other people who made me understand that that combined with my heuristics base, let me know that was what I'm saying is the pleasure clubs, the bands even, the Indian chiefs, the nations, peacekeepers, the NOI. I'm gonna give them a fraction of the money we were spending on NOLA for Life and Cure Violence, and then I'm gonna hold them accountable because they're gonna tell me what they need, and I'm gonna write them checks. And then not only am I gonna write the check to them, but we're gonna facilitate with city resources to make sure they get everything they really need. Are we back clear?
Yeah, you're clear.
Okay. And so if you understand what I'm saying is, no, I'm not going to create city programming. There's not going to be a whole bunch of signs all over the city with this famous slogan that accomplishes nothing. We going to build the brands. I'm going to say, oh yeah, you see Big Chief in a 7-wall cutting up? Ain't no murders for a month. And he putting out fires and I see it working. And we going to build Big Chief organization and let him get some more stronger chiefs under him that go out in the community and really touching these little boys. Like how we grew up, Big Duck, Tremaine, Tambourine and Fan. That's what we're gonna empower. All that begins when we take the C off of Noah. That's coming for sure on my watch.
Gotcha. New Orleans Home Search by Crown Jewel Realty allows you to search listings in New Orleans and surrounding areas. There's a filters icon in the upper right-hand corner. It allows you to customize your search to fit all your real estate needs. You can search listings, favorite listings, schedule showings, even run numbers in the mortgage calculator, and locate local schools with high ratings. Most of all, it allows you to connect directly with Crown Jewel Realty agents. Download New Orleans Home Search today. We taking the C off Nord. We're going to have tolls in the city to bring in money to and from New Orleans.
Hey, listen, every time I say that, and every time you say it in the future, if you're going to say it to help me, always follow that statement up with, that will not be a tax on the New Orleans, but you're going to have to commit to New Orleans. Your car going to have to be registered in New Orleans. You can't be here working for Teach for Life and your car registered in Connecticut. It's not, we're going to get some reciprocity and we're going to get some equity for the indigenous. That's one of the goals of this campaign.
Okay, City Hall is going to New Orleans East on your watch, and the corruption and the checks and balances will be made, so our people will know. I'm
told that the NFL wants that City Hall building or some hotel. If that's still in place when I get in office, I'm going to sell it to them. The building's old. I have a lot of complaints with that. My mama used to work in that building. I know it was raggedy when my mama worked in it. And that was years ago, okay? And so I would let them have it, but they're going to give us top dollar with no kind of side under the table benefit for them. They're going to pay me for that building. And then we're going to take that plus any monies that we can get, any, outside interests to come in and support. And we're going to try to go and put the City Hall in the East. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's a funding issue. And I do have to create the funding. And if I can do that from allocation from the current annual income or annual allocation, I will do so. But also remember, that's why I'm putting up the toll booths. They're going to stop asking me how I'm going to pay for everything. I just said how I'm going to pay for it. And can't nobody stop the mayor of New Orleans. As long as parish lines, I mean, I'm within my right and my full discretion. And they're going to pay us. And y'all going to see the New Orleans change overnight. Because we're going to start paying the police right, and we're going to get good police. And they're going to be from New Orleans. I'm going to mandate they live in our parish. And we're going to get everything back in order.
Let's talk about our infrastructure and our streets. I know that that's a plan that they constantly work on. And some streets are being worked on, but they're not in a lot of the neighborhoods that really need it. So what would be your plan to fix our infrastructure problem, get these potholes in line, bridges repaired?
First of all, let's say this. First of all, let's start here. You know, I've been trying to get everyone to understand that, you know, why we've been getting hornswoggled or duped, right, in terms of no representation is because we're forcing the nature of the election cycle to go in a repetitive, mundane way that it's been designed to go, to not give us any equity or reciprocity. And so I'm going to be the first candidate this year to be bold enough to say that I'm not an engineer, have no engineering background whatsoever, but I do know how to do a study based on engineers that have full competency from my city, and I know how to interview them for positions that control the future of our infrastructure. And I know that they have a desire to really see that happen because they own properties and they have investment in the city that matters. And so do their mothers and, you know, sisters and brothers and cousins. And so what I offer is full transparency, a study from day one that tells us exactly where we're at, exactly what state all of our operations are in, full report card that doesn't glorify me, but tells us where we're really at. If we're failing, we're failing. And if we're failing, you know, 5 months into my, you know, candidacy, then, into my mayorship, then, you know, obviously I would be the same as the mayor before me. But my point I'm trying to say is it's about checks and balances. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the most adept engineers to the table from New Orleans, and we're going to brainstorm it. And then I'm going to hire them to run it. I'm going to hire them to run it. And again, as I said before, have an accountability, because where else can they go when they're getting top dollar in their city and they're made the premier engineer and they've claimed that they're that all this time? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's how you get the machine to really start moving. When you put the cogs in it that have an accountability, that their reputations will be ruined and they can't just move back to where they're from and just sneak off with their $1 million pension. And so that's the first thing I'm going to do for the infrastructure. But I do want to tell you, though, that whatever infrastructure I have to do, I'm going to do it way more respectfully than it's being done currently, with way more respect to the citizens and in regard to how they have to move and get to and from their homes.
Okay. I love that. I love the checks and balances change, because we haven't seen that ever. I want to, as we close out and wrap it up, is a question that I asked you previously, and I always have this question for you, and I would like for others to hear the answer. And you're very bold in the way you speak. You're bold in what you say. You're not afraid to expose what's happening. what's your inspiration for that? Where does that come from, and how do you keep going with that?
You know, I have to say my first thought was my children. If I'm bold, as they say, I do have fears. One of them is to die without having made a dent in what they, I don't want my sons to live like I've had to live. It's personal for me. Dubois first was the first one to tell me, and then my mama told me she agreed with him that I am the talented 10. And I think my children are that as well. And I am just so horrifically offended that in 2021, I still cannot live up to my full pursuit of happiness in America with all of this rhetoric that we hear on a daily basis involved in politically correctness. And I still can't be my full potential of what God has blessed me to due to my resources that are innate because of my skin tone. And so that's what fuels me. It's unfinished business. Now, my postured answer for that is, but it's also true, my mother didn't give me a choice. I tell people all the time I was constructed. I was built. Molded, crafted. And so I have a lot of aspects in life that I am very, very tunnel visioned on purpose. And some people would critique that. But I would answer them with, if you can't find something to live for, then you need to find something to die for. I heard Pac say that one time, and that stuck with me. Mm-hmm. Because the people who don't find either are continuously victimized. And I can't allow my flesh to become a prison for me. Where I have 1,000 deaths every day that constantly have me having an insurrection inside my own head that makes me go home and battle myself. You ever been there? Mm-hmm. I got tired of that due to racism when I was like 17, 18. Come home crying, kicking shit. Mama would be like, calm down, baby. First thing she would say is, don't take it personal. You black in America. Mm-hmm. She said, it ain't just you. You need to just work on getting together with your brothers so y'all can overcome this. And so that's what I've been hearing since I was 16. That's my motivation, is my point.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So we're going to close out. That was a great way to close out. But if there's anything else that you want to leave the people with that we didn't cover?
I just want the people, I'm curious and the people probably curious. Who you supporting for mayor, sis?
Byron Cole.
All right, Byron Cole.
Y'all make sure y'all go vote. Go vote.
Thank you. I appreciate the platform. And so
You're welcome.
I want to tell you too. I pledge to my people. I'm not gonna switch up nothing. If you are interested, be multiple people, and I can't be favored, show any favoritism. But you were one of the first to come to me, period, before I was running for mayor, right? And so I offer this to you as well. I want the whole community to always be informed. Transparency is one of my platforms, right? And so even if elected, once a year for sure, twice a year, I'm coming on all my people's show and make sure that every demographic of the city understands right where we at in full view with no spin. And I appreciate you for extending your platform. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. I encourage everybody to support Byron. Definitely go vote. 2021 mayor. We've been streaming on Facebook and on Instagram, so anybody joining us on either platform, thank you. You can also play back this video on YouTube, Crown Jewel Realty. Crown Jewel Realty is the host of New Orleans Home Search podcast. Thank you guys for always listening. You can catch us on the first and third Thursdays, New Orleans Home Search podcast. Peace, y'all.
Only on UrbanSmartNetwork.com.